Town Hall 18 is the next Clash Clans update, and today I'm going to be showing you everything that's coming, including a new Guardians feature replacing the Town Hall weapon, all the new levels, the new Meteor Golem troop, well, I guess that's not really new, but you know what I mean, the next merge defense, and more. Right off the bat, let's take a look at the two new Guardians and explain what they are and how they work. Guardians are the replacement for Town Hall weapons. When you upgrade to Town Hall 18, you won't have the Infernal Artillery anymore, but two Guardians that you can immediately choose from, the Longshot and Smasher. These are kind of like heroes that are attached to your Town Hall. Their purpose is to defend your village, so when troops walk into their range, they'll hop off the Town Hall and get busy. With that said, you cannot take them into a battle. They're only for your Town Hall, and because they are replacing the weapon, this means that Town Hall 18 is no longer considered a defense for targeting purposes. Alright, let's take a look at the Smasher first, which is a melee guardian who targets air and ground, dealing splash damage with its mace. He's almost as fast as a hog, so he's a pretty speedy boy. Well, more specifically, the same speed as the Apprentice Ward. The Smasher has a medium tile range, so it will only start defending the village when troops are in that range, and it hits hard. It can one-shot things like balloons, bowlers, and witches, and only a couple hits for a lot of others. If unchecked, it will absolutely destroy an army. However, the Smasher has its weaknesses. In my testing of a bunch of spam attacks, because what else would I be doing? I have found that the Smasher can easily be overwhelmed, especially when troops are being supported or healed. He'll show up, get in the troop's face, and die in like 5 seconds. So I don't see the Smasher being that big of a problem depending on your army, but that's not it for the Smasher because it also has two unique abilities. The first is where it drops a rage onto the battlefield when defeated. This works similar to a rage spell tower, except it drops it anywhere the Smasher is currently at. And then the second ability is when the Town Hall is destroyed, he becomes enraged, dealing 60% more DPS at max level, and it's at this point where the Smasher becomes very dangerous to your troops, especially if they aren't being healed or supported. The other option is the Longshot, which is basically the opposite of the Smasher, being pretty slow, but also having an insane radius. Yes, it reaches farther than any Town Hall weapon, and depending on your layout, it will basically cover your entire base. So even though it's significantly slower, it doesn't really need to move that much. It reaches pretty far. And those bolts it's shooting, they're pretty decent. Think of it as a long-range multi-gear tower, but on steroids and with legs. I mean, it literally deals area splash damage and it stays very far away, so I think it will be trickier to deal with the Longshot compared to the Smasher 100%. However, the biggest weakness to the Longshot is its HP and lower damage output compared to the Smasher, but it sort of makes up for it with its unique ability where it explodes when defeated. This explosion is comparable to the Giga Bomb in stats, give or take. However, it doesn't deal the knockback of the Giga Bomb, it just deals the damage and that's it. Next, let's take a look at the new merge defense, the Super Wizard Tower. Turns out the memes were right. Like all the previous merges, the Super Wizard Tower will require you to merge 2 of your regular Wizard Towers, which have to be maxed in order to do the merge. Once you got done with that, it will cost you 29 million gold and take 13 days to build, and you can build 2 of these, so it will consume 4 of your Wizard Towers. At launch, there will be 2 levels for it, the second costing 30 million and taking 2 weeks to upgrade. Mechanic-wise, the Super Wizard Tower is very similar to the one in the clan capital. It even has the same name and does the exact same thing. The only difference being the stats, obviously. The wizard on top of the tower is now a Super Wizard, so instead of firing single area damage shots, its shots are now chained. The way it works is it targets one troop first, then that attack chains to other troops nearby, up to 15 of them. And the damage output is pretty good, roughly the same as 3 Wizard Towers at max level. It also has more range than the regular Wizard Tower, 1 more tile, so that will come in handy, and about double the HP. Not gonna lie, I didn't notice them too much during my test attacks. These were all in regular difficulty, no modifiers. They were dealing some pretty decent damage to groups of dragons and super yetis, for example, but it was nothing crazy, especially with all the spells and Grand Warden. It really gets overshadowed by everything else in the village that's dealing the most damage. But it's not terrible. I think the real threat here is going to be to lower DPS units like swarms of bats, skeletons, maybe stuff like hogs, miners. Overall, I think this is a pretty decent merge to a defense that was considered background noise at this point. Now let's take a look at the new Meteor Golem that's going to be unlocking at Town Hall 17. Now, the Meteor Golem was introduced as a temporary troop in the October update, but in the next update, it will become a permanent troop, and this one is much stronger than the Clash Queen version. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have already played around with the Meteor Golem already, so now's a good time to remind you that the entire video includes chapters in case you want to skip this part. The Meteor Golem is kind of like 2 troops in one, which is why it takes up 40 housing space. It's made up of 2 meteor mites, and at max level they have 19,000 HP and deal 650 damage. That damage is dealt when one of the mites throws the other at a building, and then they'll walk around and hit stuff. At that point, they are 2 separate troops with their own stats. At max level, this is 9,500 HP, and they deal 260 DPS. Once the mite is thrown, they will eventually merge back together and repeat this process of one of the mites getting thrown and merging back together, and it happens over and over again. Now, I'm not really a good attacker by any means, I just ended up trying to spam these, of course, and surprisingly, they are very good at that. They are absolute tanks. Defenses struggle to take down all that HP, so they survive a pretty decent amount of time. I could see these being a pretty popular smash attack of some sorts. If you have a better army than what I came up with, it shouldn't be that hard. Like I said earlier, these are unlocked at Town Hall 17 with 2 levels, and then at Town Hall 18, you can upgrade them to level 3, so 3 levels right off the bat. Now let's take a look at the upgrades that will affect your attack capabilities, like the Barracks, Spell Factory, Hero Hall, Laboratory, and Clan Castle. You'll have to come back tomorrow to find out what's unlocking in the Spell Factory, but as for the others, obviously the Barracks unlocks the Meteor Golem at Town Hall 17. The Clan Castle upgrade, on the other hand, will allow for an extra spell capacity for a total of 4 now, and the Hero Hall adds 5 levels to each hero, so now the max levels are 105 for the King and Queen, 85 for the Minion Prince, 80 for the Grand Warden, and 55 for the Royal Champion. And although the Pet House will not be getting a new level, the Poison Lizard will be getting 5 more levels at Town Hall 17. Finally, a bunch of new troops are getting new levels as well. This includes the Giant, Wallbreaker, Wizard, P.E.K.K.A, Minion, Miner, Bowler, Thrower, Healer, Electro Dragon, Dragon Rider, and the Wall Wrecker. There are also several defenses getting new levels, including the Multi-Gear Tower, Ricochet Cannon, Multi-Archer Tower, Air Defenses, Bomb Tower, and Walls, which look pretty awesome. I really like the theme they were going for here. It's not too loud, it's not too subtle, and I'm really glad they made the walls dark in color. It really makes everything pop. I think once we can upgrade all the walls and other defenses get new levels as well down the road, a max Town Hall 18 is gonna look pretty dang sweet. We also got several traps going up, including the bombs, air bombs, skeleton traps, and spring trap. And finally, everything else getting a new level at Town Hall 18 are the obvious ones, like all of the storages, but some surprising ones like the resource collectors, which are actually going to be maxing out at Town Hall 16. But at this level, you will not be able to supercharge them. I'm not really sure if this is just a developer build mistake or something, but previously we could at Town Hall 16 and now you can't. But now that we're on the topic of supercharges, there are a lot of them that are expiring. So let's talk about all the supercharges we're getting. All collectors are getting them again. Those have 3 levels each, and the defenses all have 2 levels each, which includes the Multi-Gear Tower, Ricochet Cannon, Multi-Archer Tower, Bomb Tower, and Air Defenses. All in all, this is everything getting a new level. There's still a ton missing, but typically we get these in another update, usually within the first half of the new year. I would say definitely some of them in February or March 2026. And lastly, let's take a look at all other changes, which aren't that big, but interesting nonetheless. In terms of gameplay changes, there is going to be an interesting change to the Minion Prince. His HP is getting reduced by 1,000, which sounds like a huge nerf, but that HP is going to be added to all of his equipment. This is being done to nerf the Minion Prince only on the defensive side, so when he's defending a village, this change will effectively put him on par with the Royal Champion on defense. Then there is a price change to the resource potion in the Clan War League shop, going up from 5 medals to 10. This has to be one of the most random price changes ever. Like, I'm not really sure why exactly the resource potion, but I guess because it's the cheapest one. Developers explain that this is part of a bigger long-term approach to the Clan War League shop. They ultimately want participation in Clan War League to be more meaningful to players and incentivize players to use the rewards instead of hoarding them. What does that have to do with the resource potion? Once again, I'm not really sure. It doesn't make any sense to me. And finally, let's take a look at some economy changes. Like with every other Town Hall release, there will be price cuts for the previous Town Halls, but this time it's more for Town Hall 17 than anything else. Town Hall 16 will see some time and price cuts for the Revive spell and the Thrower, but according to the sheet that I have here, that is it. Townhall 17, on the other hand, will basically have all of its upgrades reduced slightly, which is always nice to see. But hey, remember to subscribe to see what new spell we're getting and everything else with the Townhall 18 update. He'll definitely want to come back for that. But in the meantime, YouTube thinks you'll like this next video, so why don't you check it out? As always, see you guys in the next one. Peace!